morning, I hope that you're doing well. Today I have a day off from uni. It's a Monday morning for me and it's the 2nd of December. So I really wanted to sit down for a bit and start thinking and setting up my 2025 Hobonichi weeks. This book started last week already because it goes from the beginning of December of the previous year to the end of December of the year that it's meant to be a planner for. So this goes from December 2024 to December 2025. As I've mentioned in my weekly videos, I'm feeling very attached to my 2024 weeks, and I wasn't ready to let go of it so suddenly. I moved into this book in December of 2023, so I have been using it for a full year already, but I plan on continuing to use it throughout the month of December, and I will probably switch more officially once I'm home for the holidays, so potentially the last week of December. I don't know if I will bring both books with me for the holidays. I might only bring the new one, but in the meantime I wanted to start keeping it around my desk first of all, just so I would kind of get a bit more used to it, but also start setting it up, and especially because now I'm already planning a lot of things for later on in December and especially January and February, which will be exam season months for me. I don't really want to do all of that planning in my current book and then have to transfer all of it over. So I thought I would start doing that now, and I think for a little bit I'm going to still be using my 2024 weeks for the current week's planning and my 2025 weeks to start setting things up for like future planning. So that is kind of my idea. I did a little bit of journaling in my traveler's notebook to just try to reflect what I would like to set up in here. I use my weeks in a very simple way, I think. I don't use the calendars all that much. I have used them sporadically, but it's not something I do very consistently. And I would like to use them a little bit more consistently again. I think it's a type of spread that really helps me during exam season, and so I do want to have a really good and solid setup for January and February. I don't know if I used it in January and February of last year. Yeah, I did with my exams. And what I did last year, I think, was I used this in conjunction with a printed out calendar, or maybe I drew it myself and I put it right in front of where my desk is so I could see it at all times. So I think I will really try to prioritize using the calendars this year. It was the reason why I wanted to start using the weeks in the first place back in 2023. I had the Liberty Fabrics cover one, and before this I was using the Traveler's Notebook Weekly Plus Memo, which has a very similar weekly setup, but it doesn't have the calendars at the front in the same way. And I moved into this book towards the end of June, beginning of July, and I really wanted to be able to use the calendar. Here I was in exam season again, really planning that. Had some nice concerts that month too, and then I was just tracking some habits down the side. I'm not really going to be tracking too many habits in here, but I do think it would be nice to be able to track like the progression of my hobbies in the calendar is something that I am thinking about. I'm probably going to start using my sticker dots again. I was using them a lot when I got back into journaling in 2023, and then I think throughout the course of this year I kind of fell out of that habit a bit. But I've pulled some out again, and I think I'm going to start using them again to tag some of my entries, both in the calendar pages and in some collections that I'm planning on setting up in the back pages of the weeks, which I will get into in a second. But my plan for the calendar is, of course, I will have appointments and birthdays and, you know, your standard calendar stuff, which is what I'm going to be setting up right now. I want to write down all of the birthdays, all of the appointments that I already know I have, exam dates, all of that. But also I think it will be nice to keep track of when I buy things for my hobbies. So say I place a big order for some yarn, or I buy art supplies. I don't do that a lot because I have so many art supplies. I feel like for a couple of years now I haven't really had to buy that many things, but still. Or I buy stickers, or, you know, I buy a new journal. I feel like it would be nice to have that all tracked in the same place, and perhaps also keep note of when I finish various creative projects. I do keep track of the progression of my creative projects in, I believe it is this traveler's notebook insert. I have a candle over it now, but it's a Good Ink Prussian's Tomo River paper traveler's notebook insert with 3.7mm grid. It's the same as this, essentially. I really like writing in these with my fountain pen. I feel like they're great quality. I've really been enjoying them. And I just use that to track my hobbies progression throughout the weeks. Whenever I have to journal about artwork or knitting projects or anything to do with like my creative work, videos even, if I have an idea for a drawing that I want to do, for a sticker sheet that I want to make, everything goes in here. And then kind of everything else at the moment has been going in this other traveler's notebook insert, including this yesterday night's journaling thoughts. But the weeks for me is really like a core part of my system. It's a planner, essentially. It's kind of the main way that I plan things. I do have some other bits here and there, like for university I keep track of some things digitally, but most of it goes in here. And the weekly pages is really where it's at for me. Like, it's really where what's really important for me. I think this is a pretty good example. I keep a running to-do list on the right side and extra notes at the bottom, and then just day-specific tasks or daily to-do lists on the left-hand side. It's very simple, it's very practical, it works really well for me, and I want to kind of carry that over. Obviously, this is something that doesn't really need much of a setup. The only thing that I do is I write the days of the week up here at the top and draw a line underneath it. I used to do things a bit more complicated. I don't anymore. I've really stripped it back and really simplified it, and I'm just going to carry this system across. And then in terms of the back pages, this is not a week's mega, it's a regular weeks. All of my weeks books have been regular. I've not tried the mega yet. I've not really felt the need for it. So they have 70 pages at the back. Also, a little note on that, I feel like the grid in these back pages is a lot darker in the new weeks than it is on the previous weeks. The new 2025 weeks has the new Sanson Tomo River paper. The 2024 weeks still had the old one, and I can definitely tell the difference. I know some people have noticed differences in terms of how the ink spreads when you're writing with a fountain pen. Some people find that when you're writing, even when you're writing with a really fine nib, the ink still spreads out really far and it turns out more like a medium or a large nib. I think I did a pen test here at the back, but I'm not sure if it was with this fountain pen or with something else, so I will have to test that out, and you will see that in a second when I actually start writing it in here. But I did notice earlier when I was flipping through it that the grid is a little bit darker. It's not too bad. I don't think it will be a problem for me. It is also a little bit darker in these pages, but maybe not as much. I feel like it's more noticeable in the back pages. Anyways, it's not so big a difference that it's a really big deal. But what I did originally in my 2023 weeks is I just used the back pages very loosely. I had an index key. I'd also set up an actual index that I used a little bit, but I don't really use these back pages enough for it to make sense for me to have an index, so I've stopped using that. And then I just had sort of page-long collections or running lists, or just a lot of lists, really. I have some trackers. I have a really big health tracker at some point. Here it is. Some wish lists, some things to do, and it's not very polished. Here I was planning costs for my Inktober zine last year. thinking about how to set up my 2024 weeks. And then for a little bit, I used it for daily journaling before I was waiting, like while I was waiting to be able to move into my 2024 Hon. And then throughout the month of, so I did this in November, and then throughout the month of December, I used the 14 pages at the back of the 2024 Hon to journal about December. So it wasn't proper daily, but I was still having that kind of journaling space. But what I kind of found with these pages was that I was having to reset things up every once in a while. Like if I set up a collection at one point and then I had something else on the next page, I would eventually have to reset up the first collection because I didn't have enough space for it. And it wasn't the case for all of them, but I thought to kind of solve that problem for 2024, I would set things up in seasons. So I started with the December to February section, and I set up some university planning, a wish list, a filming list, a bunch of different things, an artwork tracker. I think that's a cute idea, a list of things to do during the holidays and stuff like that. And then I reset things up from March to May. This, I think the core idea is good. However, I found it a bit jarring to do things this way, and after this, what was it, March to May collection, or like section, I didn't really reset a whole entire new section. I feel like I was trying to keep things a bit too structured in these back pages, and I don't necessarily need to do that. So at the moment I've just been using things very loosely. I had a list, a lot of pages about my thesis. This is a bunch of papers that I was reading for my thesis and keeping track of that. These were all of the things that I needed to revise for my master's entrance exam. Thesis presentation, to-do list. This is yarn notes. And just a lot of random notes. These are winter knitting plans. I will get more into that in a separate video. But I'm just using these very loosely, and I feel like that's what kind of works best for me. So I will be setting up a couple of pages in these back section. I'd like to have a couple of pages for a reading log, a couple of pages for like a knitting project log, potentially also an artwork log as well, but I find artwork really difficult to track because it's not so, I don't know, I don't always work on projects. Like if I just work on a sketchbook page, do I track that sketchbook page or not? Because I don't know, I feel like it's a bit of a difficult thing to track. So I'm kind of undecided on that. The other thing that I was thinking about is potentially using this kind of year at a glance page to keep track again of hobbies. So I would just write the corresponding letter in the day. So say I was drawing that day, I would put a D in there. So I was knitting that day, I would put a K, things like that. Just because I feel like it would be really interesting to see how many of my days I take some time out of my day to dedicate to my passions, which I think is a really beautiful thing to do. I was tracking it in the Hon for a little bit. I would set up these habit trackers from Megan Rhiannon's Patreon at the beginning of each month and kind of cross off the days that I was drawing. And then I would kind of tally them up at the end of the month. And I did that for a good part of the year. But I don't think this is a very good spot for me to do it. I think this might be a bit of a better place for me to keep track of things like that. So those are kind of my ideas. I will now go make myself a cup of tea and then take a bunch of time to transfer over all of my future appointments. I have a bunch of things from my Google Calendar that I also need to put in here. Transfer birthdays over. I hope that I don't forget any of them. And start setting up these pages. And I hope that you can journal along with me if you have something similar to do, or if you just want to journal about your day in whichever system you're using. I hope that I can keep you a little bit of company, and then we can kind of catch back up again at the end, and I will show you what I've done. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with what I've done so far. Obviously it's not necessarily everything, especially these pages at the back will evolve a lot as I use them, and I will set more up as I need them, but I've kind of done the basic ones. I did realize that my camera cut off at some point, so I'm not really sure how much you've seen of them, but I have just put down a picture. I've had this printed out for a while, and I printed out too big to put in the Hon, but it also felt strange to put a picture of my traveler's notebook insert inside that same insert, so I've not used it yet. But I thought it matched the colours of my sticker dots really well, so I put it here. And then I put my sticker dots index just on the side, just to, you know, remind myself of that. I do also have that written at the top of each sticker colour, but I thought it'd be nice to have it here as well. I set up a reading list. I had a really nice reading list set up in my rings, in my ring binder back when I was using it, or like when I was testing it out. And I kind of translated that over. Just, it's very simple. I did take out the review section. I had an extra column here at the side with 5 squares for me to track my review, but I'm not really too interested in doing that at the moment, so I've taken that out. And if I want to, I track all of my reading on Storygraph anyways. I don't review books on that at the moment, but if I ever feel the need to do that, I can just review them on there. And I just have a very simple title with a tag and then book title / author, and then I have a column to check off whether I've bought the book and a column to check off whether I've read it. So nice and simple. I've done 2 columns. I might number them down the side, but we'll see. For now I've not, like, see, that's the kind of thing that I mean. I've not filled up these pages. I will go through my books and add some in here, just some books that I would like to read, but some of them are back home, some of them are here, and I don't really want to do that this morning. I will kind of, this might be one of the things that I do during the winter holidays, so I just wanted to really set up the bare bones of the pages today. Similar thing, I dedicated 2 pages to a home to-do list. I do sometimes write down, kind of, when you do your big spring cleaning, you kind of want to write down a big to-do list. Sometimes I like to do that in here. I do also have trackers or like to-do lists for that in Notion, but I wanted to have a couple of pages dedicated to that, but I will kind of fill this up as I go. It's just kind of a section that I knew would come in handy, and I think 2 pages will keep me sorted for a while, and then if I ever need to set another one up again in 6 months' time, that's fine. And then I set up a page for knitting projects. I do keep track of knitting projects on Ravelry and like save projects that I would like to work on and things like that, but I thought it'd be nice to have an analog record of that as well. So I kept the first column marked by, what's it called? I can never remember what this line is called. It has a name. I can never remember it, but marked by the non-dotted line. For the designer, and then the pattern name, and then I can write down what yarn I'm going to use for it and some notes, the date that I started, the date that I finish it, and then check boxes for whether I've bought the pattern, the yarn, and whether the project is finished. I will probably take multiple rows for each project if I need to. I don't think this space would necessarily be enough to write down yarn, especially if I'm using more than one yarn, but you know, I feel like it's a nice little section, and I'm curious to see how it works out. And then I set up just a very simple winter holidays packing list, which I will start filling throughout the month. I will mostly probably be using it like the week before I actually leave for the holidays, but it'd be nice to just have a list of everything, so if I realize that I have a lot to bring home, I can maybe just bring home some things the week before, or I can ask my dad to come pick me up. We'll see, but I need to keep this kind of lists because I will forget everything otherwise. Another thing that I desperately need to set up, and I will probably do that at the very back, kind of next to my pen test page or here at the bottom, is a list of things to pack if I'm going to sleep at a friend's house for a night, because I always forget something. Like, I will forget toothbrush, I will forget my pajama, I will forget everything. So I need to make a list so I can reference that list every time and make sure that I have everything. So that's kind of what I've set up in the back pages. And then at the very back, I wanted to mention there's some new pages this time around. This has always been there. The My 100 has also always been there. I don't know how I'm going to use it in 2023. I used it for music. I have not used it in 2024, but we'll see next year. I had a look on Google Translate to see what the rest of the pages were. This, I think, is just a list of ideas for doodles that you can include in your weekly spreads to kind of tag things, which I thought was really cute. This is a list of ramen recommendations from each prefecture in Japan, which I also thought was really funny. Like, I love Hobonichi for doing this kind of thing. I think this is a list of things to like do in preparation for an emergency. No, just kidding. This is a list of like seasonal dates, like seasonal events, that kind of thing. And then this is a list of things to have packed in case of an emergency and who to contact. And then conversion charts for I do not understand what. And then here is just some links to Hobonichi stuff. But I thought it was really cute that they included like this page in particular. I thought it was so funny. I did set up some of the calendar pages. I think they're turning out quite well. So I decorated the December page a little bit just for fun, using some of my own stickers from the advent calendar. Put in some appointments. I did tag my university things. I won't be tagging every single like personal thing, especially in the calendar, but like I'm mostly using the personal grey tag for things in the back pages or for birthdays here in the weekly pages. So this is my best friend's birthday and I tagged it there. And then in here I tagged some birthdays with a little star, or like I highlighted them. It's not necessarily a tag, but some exams. This is a lab practical, more exams, another birthday. They're very simply set up so far. May is a month of birthdays. Like everyone I know was born in May. So they're just very simply set up for now, but I think they're gonna work well. I think December already looks quite nice and I will kind of keep adding to it. I did also transfer every single thing that I wrote in here into the weekly spreads, because if I end up, like, I'm much more likely to check the weekly spreads than I am to check the monthlies, or at least like I check the weekly spread every day. I don't necessarily check the monthly every day, but I would like to also have appointments written in the monthly so that when I am kind of going about planning my month overall, or if I have to take an appointment for something, I just kind of have everything at a glance. Otherwise it's not really functional. So I did spend a bunch of time just transferring everything over. I did transfer over some events that I have in December, despite not knowing exactly when I'm going to move into the new weeks, but I thought it'd be better to just have them, like, just in case. I will say, it's definitely true what some people were saying about the fountain pen writing larger on this paper. I don't know why it is. I think I will just have to get used to it. I don't mind it too much, but there's definitely a difference. I don't know if it shows up that much on camera, but do I have more of a written page like here? Like, this is a lot thicker than this, and it doesn't bother me that much. Like, it's not so thick that I don't think I'll be able to write in the 3.7mm grid in the Hobonichi, but it's a big difference. It's definitely a big difference. I did not find the same thing happened with my Muji 0.5 pen. I used it just to set up these back pages because if I had to wait for all of the lines, like I know I was going to smudge all of the lines if I were to do them with my fountain pen. I do that all of the time. One thing that I did find with this was that it bleeds a lot. The fountain pen ghosts a bit, but it doesn't bleed. The gel pen really does bleed, and ghosts quite badly. So, I don't know, I feel like, because as far as I know, the 2024 Hon also has the new Sanzen Tomorrow paper. It's not exactly the same because the Weeks one is cream toned and then the Hon one is white. It's the same as the one that's in the Cousin, but I have never had any issues with my fountain pen on here. Like, it definitely writes a lot thinner than it does compared to the new paper. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. I really like the paper that's in the Hon. I'm curious now to see what the paper will be like in the new 2025 Hon. Whether it will be the same as the 2024 Hon or whether it will be more similar to the 2025 Weeks. We'll see about that. I've not done any tests yet. I'm just going to move straight in the book on January 1st. So we'll see how that goes, but interesting. I think that's kind of it. There are a couple of other things that I would like to do. I've already put in the new cover. I decided to get a new cover just because I have this book in my bags all of the time. And I would, you know, the cover does get a little bit grimy and scratched, and I would rather store it with the cover on as well. But I'm thinking I have a Polaroid picture that I might like to put in this front pocket here. Just kind of there. I think I have a cat whisker in this one. I have cat whiskers everywhere. My mum collects them for me when my cat sheds them, and I have a massive collection in the back pocket of that. I just feel like they're little good luck charms. I don't know if that's weird, but I feel like it's cute. So I have that, and then here at the back I have a couple of extra random ephemera bits. I had the little card that the Weeks came with about like the artist information card, and then I have a picture of my parents that my dad printed for me. And then I have, what's that? A yarn tag thing. So I think I might transfer the picture over, or I might stick it somewhere. But I also just realized that I have this. This is a little pocket that comes with the Weeks. I'm not going to stick it on just because the cover on cover already has one and I don't use these pockets too much, so I'll just put it aside. But I'm happy with my little setup. It was probably not the most exciting thing for you to see, but I felt like, I don't know, I thought it'd be interesting for someone to maybe hear me talk about it. I always find it interesting to hear people talk about how they set up their books. I've been watching a whole bunch of those videos lately as they've been coming out this month, and I guess it'll be interesting to see how the book evolves throughout the course of the year. I am planning on filming an end of 2024 journaling recap, where I go through all of my books, mostly especially this boy. It's chunky. It's not that comfortable to write in anymore, and yet I keep sticking things in. Which is perfectly fine. I love it so much. But I will go through my weeks as well and all of my travel notebooks, so you can kind of expect that, I would say, early January, perhaps the second week of January, because I don't think I can film that while I'm home for the holidays, but I look forward to chatting you through all of that, and in the meantime, maybe I'll start using this book and we'll see how that progresses. I would love to know if you're also using a Hobonichi Weeks for next year, how you've set that up, or if you're using a different system, if you've taken some time to kind of set up your books, or if it's something that doesn't really interest you and you just start using them and go with the flow. I'd love to hear you talk about it, and in the meantime, I will wish you a very happy rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Bye!